Hi there folks, Simmon here. Welcome to another game in this tiebreaker series, hopefully the final game, where we will see gowellja and nitzel face off in a 10-minute, 5-second increment, 6x6 game with 3 komi to black, meaning 3 points get added to black's flat score if the game ends in flats and not a road. So this is big time because if gowellja wins this, he takes the 4th playoff spot because he did win a game against nqeron. However, if nitzel wins this, then they all have 1 win, and that means they have to do this whole round robin thing yet again, playing 3 more games to see who comes out on top. So this is a pretty big deal. This could decide who that 4th slot is. I'm kind of rooting for gowellja here because he is in my fantasy team, so a little biased, but we'll see. We'll see. It would make for some fun games if we did see some more tiebreaker games. Anyway, that is it, and I believe we are ready to start, so let's get into this game. And here we go with nitzel versus gowellja in this tiebreaker game for the 4th spot in the playoffs of this Intermediate Invitational Tournament. This time, they're going to be nitzel in white and gowellja in black. They did agree to that, so we are ready to go. And again, if nitzel wins this, then they do this whole thing over again, do another round robin between the 3 of them. If gowellja wins this, he goes straight on to the playoffs as the 4th slot and faces off against Manatee, I believe. And they're going for opposite corners this time. Gowellja does like to do those opposite corners as opposed to the adjacent. And then nitzel playing up something a little bit differently. Going here, playing on the other corner. Very different play than what we're used to. Not sticking to those standard openings that were so common in the rest of this tournament. Definitely not doing that standard mirrored opening that I talked about in the openings video of Tak University. This is very different, and I don't even know what's going on. Looks like black is trying to do some sort of edge crawl, but also I'm hearing from nitzel that that was the misclick of the year. I believe he may have misclicked playing an A6. So that could have just been a very, very bad misclick, I guess? I don't know. But it doesn't seem to be too bad for him right now. Black does drop that capstone in between these 2 flats, and dropping it between these 2 flats is pretty strong because this capstone cannot be isolated. It's also in a position where it can be part of this vertical road threat, and it cuts off any sort of horizontal threat that white is building right here. So strong capstone placement. It's also pretty centrally located. Follows a lot of the guidelines that we see in the capstones video of Tak University. All right, let's take a look here at what nitzel's going to do in response to this. This is a really difficult position for nitzel because black is pretty in control right now. I would say that black has a pretty strong advantage from this current positioning. We may see something being played like d5 or maybe d3, maybe even c3. A c3 would kind of help to cut off that vertical threat from black, but I imagine that it would be countered by a b3. So instead we're seeing c5 and then a b3. Black ready to come over with this capstone and continue that vertical threat here. Kind of going for not exactly an edge crawl, but coming staying along on this side of the board, kind of keeping it there. I don't think there's anything to worry about at this moment. No sort of tinue pattern opening up for black. White building up here on c5 and c6 is actually pretty strong because it keeps his pieces in line for going for maybe this horizontal threat. Maybe a slightly early capture, who knows? But I do kind of like it. At the same time, capturing up here gives white the ability to kind of build into this, maybe go for his own horizontal threat. Though if he does capture up again onto b6, he is going to have 2 captives underneath that flat stone, and that's going to be pretty rough. Instead, he drops that capstone pretty strong to be able to safeguard this piece here. He may want, yeah, he's going to self-capture to keep that capstone from coming over and capturing onto that piece. Black, not too worried about it, building down, ready to capture over onto c6 and continue that vertical attack threat. White now building below for some of this. I think white is in a pretty okay position here. Black doesn't have quite as strong of an advantage as he did before. Black making that capture over is interesting. It does one thing for sure, and that's denies this +3 flat move that white had available to him. So instead, black is now keeping it so it's just a +2 flat move and able to drop that wall here to capture out of that and maybe free that captive. So let's see what black does in response here. Continuing to build down. Maybe I like the play here at b1 because while it does make that anchor point connection to a1 and b1 here for this vertical threat, it also gives black a line to keep going along on this one file to go for that horizontal threat. Black comes down, comes over with that flat stone immediately. This is very quick play from both players. They're playing much quicker than I think they need to. But black now has another tag threat that they have made. Capturing over with a3 would be a road, so white is going to have to do something to take care of that and keep that from happening. White may decide to bring this flat up, may decide to bring the cap down, may decide to bring this wall up, this flat over. There's a lot of different options that white has right now, but black is pretty in control of this game at the moment. Looks like white is finally taking his time here to make this move. It's been a little over a minute now for this particular move. Does bring that whole capstone stack down, maintaining that hard capstone and cutting off that threat from black. Hard capstone is a very strong piece that you can have on that board, able to crush those walls, make a lot of good threats. Black decides to play down here at d1. Interesting position there. Instead of c1 to continue it on, going to play at d1. I imagine white's going to play down here at c1 on this next move. Playing at c1 starts to build that connection for a vertical threat for white and also cuts off what looks like black building a horizontal threat here. So I imagine a c2 is upcoming for white as well. Okay, so it does build at c2. Black may decide to build here at f1. Okay, and then we're going to see a smash on this wall on c3 pretty soon. If we see white play at a5, that's probably pretty good. But then this capstone is definitely smashing that wall. That's why he builds over here onto d2, ready to come down and capture onto this d1 to cut off that threat that the capstone would make. Does make the smash. This is attack threat for black. Capturing over with c1 to d1 might not be too bad here. But he is going to have to make a capture. Does go for that move. The reason why this is not too bad is because it still offers the opportunity to come up for that vertical threat. Because he's got this piece here at d4, and he's got d2 available, so he is able to make that connection. And so that can work out for him in the long run. But black is still in a pretty strong position, not as strong as he was a moment ago. Black bringing that capstone back up to interrupt any sort of horizontal threat that white's starting to build here. I think we may see white build here at d3 now on this turn. And that would go for this vertical threat. Also be a connection off to the side for a vertical threat in that direction. There are a few options. White instead dropping a wall there. That's very interesting. I guess he wants to release that captive. But I'm very surprised he didn't immediately go for a flat here. Maybe he's worried about black playing a flat on c5 and making some sort of attack threat here. Because c5 would be a attack threat capturing over. But I don't think a wall was necessary there. Black placing another flat down at C1. Interesting. Interesting. What is he going for? Perhaps just ready to cut off D1 at any point. I do feel like that wall was a little premature and not necessary. Black coming down with that whole capstone stack onto B3. This is a self-capture, but maintains that hard capstone, able to make some pretty good distance with this capstone now, make some positive flat count differential moves, and this would be a plus, let's see, +1, +2, +4 move. Yeah, that would be a +4 move, and if you're confused about what I mean by a +4 move, you can check out that flat count differential video I have posted on the Tak University series. Okay, so Black now taking his time, trying to think of what to do in response to this move from White. I imagine a C5 placement here would be a Tak threat for Black, capturing over with B2. And it wouldn't be too bad for him. Instead, gonna bring that whole stack down, ready to make this capture. Now, White's got to do something either with this capstone or with D1 moving to the right. One of those moves is going to be the one to make. Not quite enough flats here to make that road, but very close. Before you can do anything with it, he's got to interrupt that road. Now, Black's probably going to retake this stack here. Does not want White to get those flats back. Does it with the flats. Interesting. Does it with both flats, not just one of them. Does it with the stack of 2. Interesting idea there. I'm not quite sure why he would do that. Perhaps denying White the ability to spread as far if White does gain control of that stack. It's the only thing I can think of right now. White now trying to think of what to do in response to Black. Black, I'd say, is still pretty in control of this game. But it's tough to say, actually, because, I mean, White has this wall that's interrupting his own threat, but all of these pieces are in these big stacks here that it's hard to say really who has the advantage. They both have hard capstones. This stack is owned by Black, but I mean, it can be stolen by White and then by Black. It's tough to say. This could go in a lot of different ways, so it's really hard to analyze how this board is going to go. White decides to play over here at E2. Looks like maybe going around their own wall a bit, or prepping for any sort of move that Black makes, or just getting flats on the board. Black dropping a wall here, ready to liberate the captive onto, liberate the captive from B2. This is interesting. So we may see this wall come down and capture onto D2. Pluto the Brave in the chat actually talking about C3 coming left, this wall coming left over here, to be able to capture down onto this. I think capturing onto itself first may be a little bit better, but this is a very interesting position for both players. It's tough to really say what's going on here because a lot of their moves are very, very different than normal. Black maintains the hard capstone, does capture onto this stack, ready to use this stack and spread in a long direction because he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 friendlies here. And so he can take 3 of the top flats and move them up while leaving a Black behind. So he can make a Tak threat by placing here at C1 on the next turn. White's going to have to do something here to interrupt Black's plans. I would not be surprised either if Black decided to capture down with this, place at A2, be able to liberate that flat, and then come across to the right with the Tak threat. A lot of things that black can do right now. Having this stack is pretty strong. I'd say that black is pretty heavily in the lead at the moment, now that he's got that stack with that hard capstone. White doesn't really have an opportunity to take back that strong lead right now, but can start to build towards something else. I feel like black... I'm not sure. I feel like black has some things going on that white can maybe fix, or maybe stop rather, but it doesn't look like white is building towards anything offensively. It's going to be just defensive for now. So it looks like white's taking their time now, trying to build towards some horizontal threat maybe, or just try to block black a little bit more. Looks like that could be the goal at the moment. All right, looks like there was a disconnect, but I believe there was a reconnect as well. Black coming down with that capstone. Immediately faced with a wall on D2. This is kind of a crazy game. So many different things happening at once here. Black coming across with that wall to keep white's wall from capturing. This is a very unorthodox game, I'd say. Very strange. I wonder if they're as confused by this game as I am right now. Oh, goodness. Okay. Wow, but look at the time here. Nitzel down to 2.5 minutes. Gowellja at 6 minutes. And again, they only have a 5-second increment in this game. 10 minutes, 5 seconds on the clock for increment. So, looks like we've got an F2 placed here from white. I'm still not following why he's making these plays down here. Black is going to keep playing for vertical and horizontal threats. White should have been maybe building across for horizontal up top, or maybe vertical over to the side, but hasn't really been doing that. Just been kind of placing flats around here and walls for black to keep him from stopping, to keep him from building any roads. But I feel like white really had that area under control, and now white is going to start building across up here in defense of what black is trying to build. And I just don't know. I feel like it might be a little too late for that. Definitely not too late to save the whole game, but it would have been much stronger had he played these moves earlier instead of reacting to black's play here, building his own offense. All right, so let's see. White's going to want to try to keep that capstone here. Doesn't need to, because there's that white flat, right? And so black would have to come over before coming left, and white has these flats to come down and cover this. So that's not really the problem here, this horizontal threat. It's the vertical that white's going to have to worry about. White playing here at A4, black making that tag threat, moving this this wall up would be a road. Also smashing that wall with the black capstone would also be a road. White's going to need to interrupt that in some way, probably by taking A4 and moving it to the right. Looks to be the reason why A4 was placed there in the first place was to capture over and interrupt that road. That would not be a surprising play to me. There it goes. A4 does go to the right and capture that, interrupt that road threat. Black bringing that wall down on A4, ready to capture over onto this flat and liberate that captive and make some positive flat count differential moves by moving it across over onto c4. White dropping another wall, ready to liberate the captive here on b3, it looks like. Does go for that. A lot of walls being dropped here from white and black. Black's got 2 walls, white has 3. And this is, again, 3 komi for black. Let's take a look at this flat count score right now. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for white versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then plus 3 komi, 9, 10, 11 for black. So black is in the lead when it comes to flats. So it looks like black placing here at c3, he wants to take this wall stack, move it across, make that attack threat yet again. White's going to take this this wall stack rather, and move it across onto c3 to interrupt that road threat and make a positive flat count differential move in the process. At least I assume that's what's going to happen. That is... It's not the only move he can make, but it's one of 2, basically. Moving d3 left or b3 right. And so he does make the b3 right move, but he doesn't leave behind a white flat here. He's ready to move this stack up and leave whites behind while capturing, make those positive flat count differential moves, trying to move up in terms of flat count. He's only got 38 seconds left on the clock, and again, this is only a 5-second increment, so he gets 5 seconds added to his timer after every move. Gowellja on 5 minutes got plenty of time to think about these following moves that are coming up. He is taking that time as well, using those precious seconds to determine what the best response is to this move here. White now also running a little low on reserves. Black still has plenty left, so white will sort of determine when this game ends if it does go to flats. Black gonna have to start placing a little bit more, I believe. Does bring that wall stack over to the left. That blocks this move from going upwards. White now building here at b3. Not quite sure why. That one eludes me a little bit. I would have expected maybe an a4 instead to build for that vertical threat. But now we see b3 being played here. Yeah, a little confused by the play from nitzel, but he is very low on time, so it does make a lot of sense that that you'd be a little bit rushed to make these moves. Black does not have attack threat here, doesn't really even have too much in the way of attack threat here, but he is building towards a solid positive flat count differential move here. So we may be seeing something like white start to play up on this side, but he instead plays at c4. Black responding with a5, ready to go across maybe for this. Trying to get rid of these flats, able to maintain that flat count lead. d2 does come down, interestingly enough. Though I have no idea why. Maybe to make this +2 move on the next turn. And we got black building for this horizontal road now. White's going to have to start building for their own. We may see black decide to place at f5 instead of e5 to be able to cut off this vertical threat from white. I don't know, but it's not looking too great for white here. Black's got a pretty strong flat advantage, has some positive flat count differential moves in the future. And white kind of has to sneak by with something, make some sort of sneaky threat because he's got 18 seconds on the clock. Black down to 3.5 minutes. Does make this move, which is surprising. Frees white up to move up here. Down to 20 seconds on the clock. He's making some quick moves here, trying to figure this out. But it does look like, unless something crazy happens here in the next few turns, it looks like gowellja will win this And that is the game. gowellja does make a road here. I'm not sure if that was Tinue. I saw that move, and I think that moving this up, I think C4 plus would have stopped it, but that is the road. That is the win for gowellja. gowellja takes this game. That means gowellja wins the 4th position in the playoffs of this Intermediate Invitational Tournament. So gowellja wins over nqeron and over nitzel, and he takes it. That was a wild game, quoting gowellja there. Bit of a wild game, yes. That was pretty nuts, but was not Tinue at the end, but nitzel only had a few seconds left on the clock, so it was going to be harder to spot and interrupt those threats. So well played to both players. Congratulations to gowellja. This means that gowellja goes on to that 4th spot, and he plays against Manatee, which is interesting because gowellja played against Manatee in his group stage. And so gowellja does go on, and he is in my fantasy team. So excellent. But they will be playing again, and they did draw. They each won a game against each other in the group stage. So this time they get 4 games to play against each other. And if they each win 2 games, drawing both, then they have to do a tiebreaker match, just like what we saw here. So that should be exciting. Can't wait for that. Be sure to check out the description at the bottom of this video to see all the TAK resources that we have available to us, including the playtak.com website where you can play folks online. Also the rules for the game so you can learn it. Check out the videos on my channel for how to play TAK. Check out the subreddit. Especially check out the TAK Discord server, which is the community hub. It's where everybody goes to talk about TAK, find players to play with, where we organize all these tournaments and everything. It's all on that TAK Discord. That is the place to be. If you're unfamiliar with Discord, Discord is a audio and text chatting web application and mobile application, and it's super easy to use, doesn't cost a thing, and you don't even have to download anything if you don't want to. Thanks for checking it out, thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.